For 20 years, they cried. Fathers, mothers, sons hiding behind walls that no longer stood. The sound of hooves meant one thing. Sisera was coming. He had 900 iron chariots, and a cruelty that ground nations into dust. But one woman saw it coming. Not the war, the ending.
The Lord will deliver Sisera into the hands of a woman.
And somewhere, deep in the wilderness, another woman waited. She wasn't a warrior. She wasn't famous. But when destiny knocked, she answered. You may have heard of Egypt, the chains, the escape, the parting sea. But what came after wasn't peace. It was compromise, rebellion, silence, and then came Jabin, king of Canaan. His capital, Hazor, his sword, Sisera. For 20 years, they cried out. Judges 4 verse 3. And the children of Israel cried unto the Lord, for Sisera had 900 iron chariots, and for 20 years he mightily oppressed them. He didn't just conquer, he made them afraid to hope. Weddings were whispered, children were hidden, dreams were buried beneath fear. Can you imagine that? Living under the sound of hooves? Wondering if today was your last quiet moment? Because that's how they lived. Every single day. And still, they remembered the promise. The land flowing with milk and honey. The one who parted seas and shattered chains. And when no one else would rise, a woman did. She didn't wear armor. She didn't swing a sword. But when she spoke, heaven moved. In the days when swords were feared, and voices were silenced, one voice was heard above the rest. She didn't command armies. She didn't sit on a throne. But when she spoke, men listened. Her name was Deborah. She judged Israel from beneath a palm tree. Not with a gavel, but with wisdom. Not with force, but with fire in her words. Judges 4 verses 4 to 5. Deborah, a prophetess, the wife of Lapidoth, judged Israel at that time. Have you ever met someone who didn't need to raise their voice? To carry the weight of God on their breath? That was Deborah. And then, she called for Barak. A warrior. A commander. A man who knew how to fight, but not how to move without certainty. Judges 4 verse 6. Has not the Lord commanded, she said. Go, gather 10,000 men, for the Lord will draw Sisera out, and deliver him into your hand. But Barak hesitated. He knew what Sisera was capable of. He had seen the chariots. He had heard the screams.
If you will go with me, I'll go, but if you won't, I won't.
And that's when Deborah dropped the line. The prophecy that changed everything. Judges 4 verse 9. I will surely go with you, she said, but the honor will not be yours. For the Lord will deliver Sisera into the hands of a woman. Who is this woman? Surely Deborah meant herself, right? The soldiers believed it. Barak believed it. Even Deborah didn't say otherwise. But heaven had someone else in mind. And while men gathered swords, and the wind began to howl, a storm was already forming. Not in the sky, but in the quiet place where destiny waits, with a tent peg in hand. 10,000 men stood at the foot of Mount Tabor. They didn't have chariots, didn't have armor, didn't have a chance. Except for one thing, the word of God was with them. Barak stood where giants would not. He remembered Deborah's voice, the one that thundered louder than Sisera's wheels. For this is the day in which the Lord has delivered Sisera into your hand. Across the valley, Sisera laughed. His iron monsters gleamed in the sun. His men roared for blood. They were sure the Israelites would scatter like dust. But the sky had another plan. Judges 5 verses 4 to 5. The earth trembled, the heavens poured, the clouds also poured water. And just like that, heaven answered Deborah's voice. One drop, then two, then the flood. The iron chariots groaned. The wheels cried. The warriors screamed. God was now fighting. Barak roared. 10,000 feet shook the valley. The Canaanites slipped. Chariots snapped. Panic rose like a storm. Judges 4 verse 15. The Lord discomfited Sisera, and all his chariots, and all his army. The man with 900 chariots ran. He dropped his sword, climbed from his chariot, and became just another man in the mud. He ran past his soldiers, past the battle, past the legacy he thought he owned. His name had once ruled the land. Now it whispered behind him like a curse. Have you ever watched the mighty fall? Not with a sword, but with a storm? Sisera didn't know it yet, but the real battle hadn't even started. He thought he was running toward safety, but prophecy was waiting in a tent. The battlefield was far behind him now, but the fear stayed close. His breath came in gasps. His pride was buried somewhere in the mud, his sword forgotten. And then, he saw her, a woman, alone, by a tent, not hiding, not afraid. Judges 4 verse 18. Jael went out to meet Sisera, and said,
"Turn in, my lord, do not be afraid."
She spoke like someone who had nothing to fear, and nothing to prove. She gave him milk, covered him with a blanket, listened to his heartbeat slow, until silence returned. What do you think was going through her mind? Would you have let him in? Would you have waited, with a prophecy breathing down your neck? Let us know. She watched. She waited. Not for permission. Not for a sign. Just for the right moment. Judges 4 verse 21. Then Jael took a tent peg in one hand, and a hammer in the other, and went softly unto him. No noise. No scream. Just one woman, and the sound of prophecy being fulfilled. Sisera fled from a war, but died in a tent. He was ready for swords, but not for silence. Not for Jael. Sometimes, the quietest people hold the loudest justice. What do you think Deborah meant when she said the Lord would deliver Sisera into the hands of a woman? Drop your thoughts below. We read every one. And when the silence broke, the world would know what Jael had done. The desert was still. The winds that once howled had gone quiet. The blood that shook kingdoms soaked quietly into the sand. Jael stepped outside. No tears. No triumph. Just breath. Judges 4 verse 22. And behold, as Barak pursued Sisera, Jael came out to meet him, and said, "Come, I will show you the man you seek." You saw him? He's inside. She doesn't explain. She doesn't need to. Would you have expected it? That a man with thousands of soldiers would fall to a woman with no army? Sometimes, God doesn't use the obvious. Judges 4 verse 9. And the honor shall not be yours, for the Lord shall deliver Sisera into the hands of a woman. One woman. One moment. One tent. And the war was over. Judges 5 verse 24. Most blessed of women be Jael, the wife of Heber the Kenite. Blessed is she among women in tents. Did Jael surprise you? You're not alone. But maybe that's the point. God's greatest moves rarely come with warning. Tell us, what would you have done in her place? Next time you feel small, remember the woman with the hammer. Her tent wasn't a palace, but it was holy ground. This is how the story of Sisera ended. But Jael? Her name still echoes in the songs of the faithful.
They say history is written by kings. But sometimes, it's changed by women with no crown, and no name on a scroll. Except one. She didn't ride a horse. She didn't give a speech. She just knew when it was time to act. Judges 5 verses 24 to 27. Most blessed of women be Jael. She struck Sisera, she crushed his head. At her feet he sank, he fell, he lay still. You've followed the story. You've seen the prophecy unfold. So let me ask you, was it really just about Jael? Or about what happens when ordinary people say yes to extraordinary moments? She didn't ask for glory, but heaven gave her a verse, a legacy. Psalm 75 verse 7. It is God who judges, he brings one down, he exalts another. So when your moment comes, will you know it? Will you trust it? Will you act? Tell us below. We might just feature your comment in our next story. The woman in the tent became the name in the song. Jael, maybe you felt unseen. Maybe your name isn't written on banners or shouted from stages, but neither was Jael's, until the moment she stood firm in the quiet and obeyed the call of God. God still uses the unexpected, the ordinary, the hidden. Maybe he's calling you too. If this story moved you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it, subscribe, and walk with us as we uncover more powerful stories of faith, courage, and divine purpose, one chapter at a time.